Clavicular has been hit with a massive bombshell lawsuit with crazy allegations that have huge civil liability and even criminal implications that could land him in jail for years. We're going to get into that today on The Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. I am Andrew Esquire, American attorney, and specifically Florida attorney, as this is going down in South Florida where all this crazy looks-maxing content is being filmed. So in case you guys aren't aware, our defendant today is Braden Peters, aka Clavicular. He seems to be everywhere for his looks maxing content, talking about optimizing how you look and optimizing your appearance in order to ascend levels and achieve better results with women. That content is absolutely everywhere, and part of that is getting young women involved. And in this case, it was involving a woman or a girl rather, who at this point was underage, named Alexandra Vasilevna Mendoza, who is our plaintiff. She goes by Alora Ziva, and she is alleging several very damning things against him that might lead to criminal investigation and jail time. But first, let's start by hearing how Clavicular thinks of her.
Yeah, I hate that. She's trying to clip farm so hard. Like, I literally DNR'd so hard. Yeah, she's a bit of a thought.
Okay, so we have obviously Clavicular's opinion, but we're going to get into what the fact and fiction, away from the hyperbole, all the other comments, and get into the actual claims. So let's get to my opening statements. So, turning to the background here, Alexandra Vasilevna Mendoza filed this massive civil lawsuit with multiple claims: battery, fraud, emotional distress against Clavicular, Braden Peters in Florida. That's going to be applying Florida law. Now, several of these claims carry serious criminal implications and are likely already being investigated. So, what exactly happened? Well, we have the report here. The lawsuit filed in Miami-Dade on Tuesday alleges battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, fraud, and unauthorized publication of name and likeness by Clavicular. The suit claims that in 2025, when she was 16, and mind you, that's a big point here, she is a minor throughout all of this, Mendoza was paid $1,000 by Clav to film videos, and she was told by Clav that he wanted her to be the female face of looks maxing. Clav assisted her with creating videos and writing scripts, and she posted 4 videos for him. At one point, when Mendoza was in Massachusetts, Clav paid for a Uber to bring her to Cape Cod to his parents' home, where excessive amounts of alcohol were being served. So once again, you got him serving alcohol to minors. This is problematic as well. The suit claims that Peters served Mendoza vodka until she became drunk, and then had with her, but she was intoxicated to the point where she was unable to give consent. So we have a massive allegation there as well. After intercourse with Mendoza, Peters sent her off in an Uber and didn't see her again for another 6 months. However, in November, Mendoza went out with a group of friends in Miami for a networking event and ran into Clavicular, who commented on how her physical appearance had improved through looks maxing and invited her back to his place for a streaming session. And this is the problem here, people. All of these crimes are being filmed, and they're their own star witnesses. They got in Clavicular's Cybertruck believing they were going somewhere nearby, but he started driving to Delray Beach, and along the way, they stopped at a charging station where Clavicular and his friends snorted a white powdery substance, which they offered to Mendoza, but she refused. Once they arrived at their destination, Clavicular tried to kiss and seduce Mendoza, but she rejected the overtures. Before he took her to the bathroom where they gave him live streaming. During the stream, Peters said he wanted to inject her with Aqualix. Now, this is very, very important fact here. To melt the fat on her cheeks, and he injected her several times in both cheeks despite not being licensed to perform injections. The lawsuit said that Peters did not tell Mendoza Aqualix was not approved by the FDA for injectable fat-dissolving use. And during the video, Peters stated or suggested that methamphetamine had been added to the injection mixture. We've actually got that clip. We're going to let it play right now. So once again, you're seeing here solid proof on stream for everybody to see that he's doing the thing that's not authorized, that's unauthorized. Really, there's no debate that this thing happened because you've recorded this on video.
Yo, man, I hear you got the plug for those fresh Stacy. Tel Aviv, if you ever want to order.
Dude, I can already see the clips. Clav injects meth on think they're going crazy.
Chat, we're looks maxing her. It's all good. Dr. Clav? Yeah.
So he even drops a Dr. Clav at the end, and that is exactly the point where he's going to get into trouble. We're going to cover that. So the lawsuit continues that after this happened, after this injection happened, that Peters and Mendoza saw each other a handful of times, including instances where he paid bouncers to get her into bars and purchase alcohol. It also states that she signed a contract paying her $15K a month as a social media promoter for an online trading platform. And a short time later, Clavicular began a campaign to discredit her, and she lost her sponsorships. Now, that whole contract is going to be very questionable if she signed that as a minor, likely not enforceable, especially without parents involved, etc. And even with the injections, all the other stuff he did, there would need to be parental consent, liability, massive amounts of problems when you're involving a minor. But she's brought this suit and she's claiming in excess of $50,000. Now, what that is just a standard that they set when they file the suit. She can claim hundreds of thousands of dollars, which I think is what she is going for here. And once again, all of these things occurring as a minor. So let's get into these civil claims. So she's got battery. So that would obviously be the injection and any other physical interactions that can fall under battery. Intentional infliction of emotional distress for all of the experiences she went through that can potentially have inflicted emotional stress upon her. Fraud for career misrepresentations as well as medical misrepresentations, representing or rather not telling her that this was not approved for the use that he was using it for and that he did not have a license to do this thing. That is a huge issue for civil fraud. You also have unauthorized use of name and likeness, which is going to be an issue, particularly when there is not parental consent involved for the minor. Okay, we've also got potential criminal. Now, at this point, the civil claim is all that's been filed. We do not have charges yet, but there's some very clear criminal charges that can come from that. And as a Florida attorney, I wanted to make sure that I went into those very clearly for you guys. The potential crimes are unauthorized practice of healthcare profession, calling himself Dr. Clav, representing himself as a doctor. That is a massive issue in Florida. That's a massive issue anywhere. He does not have a medical license. He is not authorized to practice medicine. So that's definitely a problem. Even if that was said in jest, the action alone is enough here. That is potential 5 years prison just for the base offense. Now, this can be aggravated if they find that this injection caused damage to her and actually, had some serious long-lasting damage. They can aggravate that up to 15 years. There can also be aggravated battery for not just the injection, but the other encounters with Clavicular. So that's up to a potential 15 years in prison. A lot of time there. Now, to be fair, let's talk about the defense, because there's a lot of people coming out there posting clips and posting a defense. And to give a fair analysis, I have to give the other side of the story. And one of the biggest arguments that they make and people make is that she indeed was in on this. She was happy to do this and she was consenting to this. And they've played a couple clips from her own statements about this. Let's take a look.
And what else? Not dating Clav. Just did a little stream together where he injected Aqualix. It was really fun. Super nice, sent me an Uber home right after.
So, okay, this might mitigate some sort of the allegations of her unwillingness or her resistance or other facts that she alleges in the complaint. But the one thing that it doesn't get rid of is the fact that he injected the Aqualix. That just, in fact, confirms that and doubles down on that particular charge, which is the one that I'm going to focus on here that he really can't navigate around. There's no way to get around that unauthorized practice of healthcare, right? That's something that's going to stick, and she indeed confirms there. But it does draw into question some other issues of consent, some other issues of whether or not she was a willing or unwilling participant there. Her being a minor also creates other problems of her even being able to give consent in the first place. Let's play another clip.
I've done a lot of fat dissolvers, peptides, contacts, dark hair, tanned, of course I did that, and I don't give a fuck. As long as I'm long and I look good, I'm chilling, guys.
So, these are her own words that are being used against her. People are saying the peptides, the other injections can have caused whatever damage or, caused whatever problems she may have had. Once again, this may be able to mitigate some sort of amount of damages. This might be something he could bring up in a settlement, but it doesn't get him away from the unauthorized practice of medicine. So let's get to my judgment. In my judgment, Clavicular's potential max criminal exposure is up to 30 years in prison. That is a massive amount of time that Clavicular could be put away for. And to be honest, that is a ton of exposure. Now, the baseline of at least 5 years, let's say he doesn't get aggravated battery, let's say he just gets unauthorized practice of medicine, or rather healthcare profession, and they only use the very lowest offense, that's still up to 5 years. That's not looking good for Clavicular, especially since he's already got other criminal investigations going on right now. And there is absolutely no legal defense for an Aqualix injection without a license. That's something he's not going to get around in Florida under Florida law. That's just unbeatable. Now, in terms of the civil liability, I do foresee there being a settlement here, and I do foresee, and people have commented in the defense here saying, well, she just wants money. She's just trying to come here and, extract money. Okay, that's what people do. That's very, very common with suits. And that's where these settlements to get rid of these claims come in. I see this in the 6-figure range at a minimum, 100K to about 500K, somewhere in that range, from 100 to 500K, $500,000. I think that's a very likely outcome on the civil side to get that to go away, but he may not be able to get the criminal side to go away because that information is out there and he is his own star witness streaming these crimes. But I want to know what you guys think about the Clavicular situation, and I will catch you on the next one.